Viewers, good evening. It's good to be back. And I want to tell you about the great American duplicity and delusion. Look at the pictures playing out on your screen. This is Donald Trump at the 9/11 memorial, head bowed, playing his part in honoring the nearly 3,000 souls stolen when planes tore into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and a Pennsylvania field. Viewers, look at him laying wreath, shedding a tear for the cameras, and swearing America will never forget what Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda did to America. But viewers, that so-called solemn pledge ended the moment that event got over. Let me expose the great American delusion and duplicity at play here. Donald Trump has forgotten that Osama bin Laden, the face of the Al-Qaeda, the architect of the deadliest terror attack on American soil, was sheltered by Pakistan. He was living in a cozy fortified complex in Abbottabad, practically next door to the Pakistani military academy. Viewers, Pakistan shielded the man who bled America. But now, under President Donald Trump, we are being told that Pakistan is a phenomenal counter-terrorism partner. That's the phrase. Viewers, this is beyond delusion. It's a betrayal of every 9/11 victim, every soldier who fought, and every American who believes in the idea of justice. Viewers, this episode exposes Trump for what he is, a man for whom every terror attack or even terror is negotiable, plain and simple. It's just that. Viewers, the country that harbored Bin Laden, that gave safe haven to the Haqqani network and continues to fund and shelter Lashkar-e-Taiba, has got a glowing endorsement from American president. It's a good day to remind Trump about his tweet in 2018. Not too long ago, viewers, Trump had said that Pakistan gave us nothing but lies and deceit. Trump accused Pakistan of sheltering the terrorists. He said US was hunting. Trump was right in then. For what happened that his administration is now calling Pakistan a shining star in the war on terror? We don't know. While the families of 9/11 victims are left picking their jaws off the floor. What explains this behavior on part of the Trump administration, viewers? Trump is praising a country that's been revolving door for jihadists, a safe haven for likes of Masood Azhar, Hafiz Saeed. The list is long. Killers of Daniel Pearl. Viewers, Donald Trump is not just betraying the war on terror, he is betraying the trust of every American who watched the Twin Towers fall, who buried their loved ones, who sent their kids to fight in Afghanistan, only to see Pakistan's double game prolong the war. Mr. Trump, you are betraying allies like India, who've endured decades of Pakistan's proxy terror. You are betraying the very idea of justice by pretending Pakistan's selective crackdown can erase their rap sheet. Viewers, for Trump, it seems even terror is negotiable. Praising the country that hit Bin Laden is beyond belief. It's sickening. It's as absurd as handing Hafiz Saeed a medal for world peace while he plots his next terror attack. Pakistan, viewers, is not a partner in fight against terror. Pakistan is a problem. Pakistan is a liability, a state that's mastered the art of playing both sides. And Mr. Trump, you are letting them get away with it. Your duplicity is a stain, I'm sorry to say. Trump's duplicity is a stain on the global war on terror. A signal to the world that even fight against terror is just another deal to be cut, another tweet to be forgotten. The war on terror was not supposed to be negotiable, viewers, but you've made it so, Mr. Trump. Pakistan is not fighting terrorism. They are managing it, doling out just enough cooperation to keep the aid flowing. All they want is the money, and Trump is buying it hook, line, and sinker. You know what this is, viewers? This is not America first. It's America fooled. There's no other way of saying this.
Through a relationship we have with them, providing intelligence, they have captured at least 5 ISIS Khorasan high-value individuals. And I would also tell you that, since 2024, the beginning, Pakistan had over 1,000 terrorist attacks in the western area, killing about 700 security and civilians and 2,500 wounded. They're in an active counterterrorism fight right now, and they have been a phenomenal partner in the counterterrorism world.
Let's open this up. Sushant Sareen, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Suhail Seth, Ashwini Kumar Mishra, leader of the Congress, Professor Monojit Mondal, political analyst, and Dr. Anand Ranganathan completes the panel. Gentlemen, good evening. Sushant Sareen, to you first. What do you make of this great American delusion?
Yeah, Pranesh, I think the Americans, like many other countries, in fact, to some extent, even India, suffers from what you might call an abused wife syndrome when it comes to Pakistan. India has also suffered that syndrome until Mr. Modi came into power. Everybody thinks, now these guys will be okay. Okay, fine, they were beating us up earlier. But, basically good guys, now they'll be fine. And then they get beaten up again. The guy cheats on them. He double deals on his wife. And the abused wife is constantly looking for some kind of, redeeming feature in the abusive husband. And quite clearly, America is the abused wife looking for some redeeming feature in Pakistan and finding some non-existent quality which they think will be useful for them as they go forward. Now, that is one explanation. But I think there is also, it's quite inexplicable because unless the Americans are complete bunch of duffers and dodos who don't know how they have been had by the Pakistanis over the last 20 years, they should have known. For example, now they are saying that, the Pakistanis, there's general, 4-star general. I don't know how people rise to that level with the kind of information these guys are giving out. That, the Pakistanis did us a great favor by handing over this ISKP terrorist who was involved in the Abbey Gate bombings in Kabul, which killed 13 Americans. The guy who was arrested was in Pakistani custody for 6 months, and then finally the Pakistanis gave him as an offering to the Americans, something they have been using for 20 years in the past with Al-Qaeda and Taliban elements, and the Americans still don't realize it. And the interesting part is, Pranesh, that guy who was handed over was a low-level operative. And then the Americans are not understanding a simple reality of Pakistan, that the ISKP is essentially an organization which the Pakistanis are using as part of their double dealing and double games. So let me explain. Give me 30 seconds, as Anand always looks for. What the Pakistanis are doing with the ISKP is that they are using the ISKP, they are giving them bases in places like Balochistan and other places. They are letting them spread their wings out there for 2 reasons. One, to target the TTP. Second, to target the Baloch freedom fighters. And while they are using the ISKP for this purpose, they are also using the growth of the ISKP to wave this threat to the rest of the world that, look, we are going to be fighting the ISKP, we are going to be targeting them, you need to back us because we are at the forefront of this war on terrorism, the frontline state, we are fighting the world's war against terrorism for the rest of the world, etc., etc. And the Americans are falling for it hook, line and sinker. Now, whether this is because the Americans are duplicitous, which is entirely possible, that has been their history, whether they are rank stupid and they don't understand how they are being had, I leave it to your interpretation what it is. Or it's pure realism that, okay, fine, terrorism is not a big deal, not a problem for us anymore. In any case, we are withdrawing from the rest of the world. Let the other countries handle it. We will get what we want out of the Pakistanis. The Indians can go and screw themselves for all we care. And that is it. So this is going to be our war. This is the way we will have to fight it. And we never were depending on American crutches in the past. And I don't think we should be depending on American crutches in the future. And we should deal with
you're right
the
about
American...
that. But you could have easily called it realism had it not not been for 9/11. That is too real a stain to be erased, forgotten, overlooked, etc., whatever you want to call it. Suhail said, how can an American president forget where Osama was found? Who sheltered Osama?
I hate to say this, but Donald Trump is intellectually innocent. He's unhinged. He belongs to an asylum, but sadly, it's today called the White House. Everything about Donald Trump is humanly negated by an absence of any human values that man has. He can't be trusted. He actually is perhaps the worst global leader the world has ever seen. I mean, he makes Hitler look like kindergarten. The problem is that in our sucking up to America, we have to tolerate this absolute rascal. The bigger tragedy is that no one can correct him, because when you fight with a pig, you get dirty, but the pig loves it. So if you engage with him, you're actually inviting him to do even more disastrous things, which is why I kind of agreed with the stance that the Prime Minister of our country took qua him. There is no point in engaging with a man who turns turtle almost every alternate day. I'd said this on your program about Elon Musk, both alpha males, both self-destructive, one on drugs, one drug by absolute power. And you've seen what's happened. My belief is that India must continue to follow the policy we follow. We waged a war to protect humanity. Pakistan continues to wage a war to protect its terrorists. The moment you create indifference towards America, you will actually be helping yourself. A. B. What has the EU done today? I think the best thing that happened to the EU was Donald Trump. Until Donald Trump, the EU was as fractured as any other bloc, as it were. What he has successfully done, Donald Trump, is he has negated the superpower authority, both moral and absolute, of the United States of America. I'd written an article many weeks ago saying what Donald Trump has done, successive generations of Americans will pay for it. People who have been thrown out of the country forcibly, students whose education has been stymied right in the middle. So in every which way. So don't be surprised, Pranesh, about both his intent and his design. They are mired in evil. They are mired in the lack of knowledge, and they are mired in the lack of empathy. You know, when a human being lacks empathy, knowledge, and morals, that is the most dangerous concoction you can imagine. Today, Donald Trump is the epitome. If I were to characterize him as a Shakespearean character, he combines the guile of Lady Macbeth, the weakness of Richard II, and the absolute despair of King Lear.
But there are people within our country who have blind faith in Donald Trump. You know, this
those
ecosystem
are the
that
left
we have.
liberals. They are neither left nor are they liberal. They have been left out.
Let's bring them on. Professor Manojit Mondal, look what Donald Trump is doing, sir. You know, a country that sheltered Osama bin Laden. Trump is now, saying things about Pakistan, phenomenal partner in war against terror, etc., etc. Yet, the Congress and the larger ecosystem, in your bid to slam Modi, etc., etc., you will believe him?
Realize that 5-6 years ago when you campaigned for Mr. Trump, ab ki baar Trump sarkar, kisne kaha tha bhai? Who did namaste Trump here? Who did howdy modi there? You ask this question to the Prime Minister of this country. What did he understand about Mr. Trump? In fact, if you expand the territory, space of this debate, I repeat, this again indicates the humongous failure of the foreign policy of this government. Whether it is the Biden administration, the failure was in Bangladesh. We could not convince his friend in Biden that he should not intervene in Bangladesh. We talk about the St. Martin Island, and even now, who I think was supposed to be a great friend of Mr. Modi, embraced each other even 3 months back in the United States of America. You were completely, going gaga about how Trump was giving the check to Mr. Modi 3 months back, and now the whole, discourse is changing about the ecosystem of the opposition. Opposition has been consistent enough in saying that America does not understand any other nation's interest beyond its own interest.
No,
Even
Mr.
on your
Professor
show.
Mondal, if you really believe what you're saying, that Americans don't understand or they're not concerned about anyone else's interest, then why is this narrative that, Trump has said that he was the one who mediated, ensured ceasefire, etc., etc. 11 बार बोल चुके हैं, 12 बार बोल चुके हैं. ये बंद कर दीजिए ना, if you really believe Trump is not trustworthy.
No, simply because of the naivety of our Prime Minister. He did give in to Trump's machination.
Okay.
Did he or did not he? For the last
so
5,
which is
6
why,
years.
okay, because, the Prime Minister did howdy Modi with Trump, which is why Rahul Gandhi can say what he wants to. Abhijit.
So, Pranesh, as the self-appointed president of the Trump Admiration Society of India, I just want to strongly condemn these scallywags, Sushant and Suhail, for dumping on the greatest president America has ever had. Can I just say this? First of all, it is American foreign policy to use and dump. You saw this with Ahmad al-Shara, the current so-called president of the Republic of Syria, who was a wanted al-Qaeda criminal for the longest period of time, was on the run, and now suddenly he's a great Democrat and federalist and protector of minorities and God knows what not. Number one. Number two, we also need to remember that there is something slightly bigger happening in the neighborhood, which is rather a higher American foreign policy goal, which is Iran. Now, we don't know what they're going to do to Iran, but I think all the indications are they're going to hit Iran or try to regime change Iran. Personally, I don't think Trump will go in for regime change, but they're certainly going to go in for very heavy strikes if some kind of a deal doesn't happen. There is a point up to which Iran will compromise, and after that, they will not compromise. I suspect that this has something to do with that, because they will need some kind of ground bases and things like contiguous ground bases to Iran in Pakistan, in which case I wish America on Pakistan and I wish Pakistan on America, because the last time the two of them got together, 2,500 American troops and God knows how many more hundreds of contractors of theirs died. So, ye Rab ne banai jodi hai. I think we should come up with a, this thing, Asim and Trump, Trump Sim. So I wish Trump Sim a long, healthy honeymoon and long life.
Okay.
That's what I'd say.
Ashwini Kumar Mishra ji, leader of the Congress, is with us. Ashwini ji, आपने सुना प्रोफेसर मंडोल क्या कह रहे थे? हमारे जो बाकी गेस्ट हैं, सुहेल सेठ, सुशांत सरीन, अभिजीत, उन्होंने अभी तक क्या कहा है? ट्रंप जो ओसामा बिन लादेन वाला बिट्रेल भूल सकते हैं, पाकिस्तान को अब तारीफ कर रहे हैं. क्या राहुल गांधी को ट्रंप का भरोसा करना चाहिए?
Shaming Trump won't help us. I mean, you can't neglect the fact that he is still the president of United States, and you may call it duplicity of Trump, but how do I see is the total failure of our diplomacy. We as a country failed to communicate to America about the deeds of Pakistan, how it's been harboring the terrorism, and probably because the way we have been having bilateral, we have been having ties up with America, it's our failure of our diplomacy with the United States. When we go and become too close to America, when we go and do howdy Trump, when we do namaste Trump, and the same time, when my Prime Minister about to visit America, they sent 682 Indians chained in those like a prisoners and send them on the ship. This is where our diplomacy stand today, and yesterday's incident. So you may shame Trump, you may call him by names, but it doesn't change the fact that he is still the president of United States.
No, I am not shaming anyone. I am only calling out. I am only calling out what he said and what he's done. Ashwini ji, मुझे एक बात बताइए. आप कह रहे हैं कि the government has failed diplomatically. If the government has failed, चलिए, for a moment, let's concede the government has failed, or let's assume government has failed. Why is Rahul Gandhi not filling up, filling the gap? उनको बोलना चाहिए ट्रंप को कि look, this is India's stand. Why is he parroting Trump if Trump is such a fool?
Don't you think that statement should come from our Prime Minister when Trump has said 11 times that I was the reason ceasefire happened, and you rightly said in the start that for Trump terror is negotiable, but for India terrorism is not negotiable. But Trump has said that 11 times, and we have never denied that. We as a Prime Minister of our country never denied it.
It's best to ignore him. वही पॉलिसी है सरकार की. It's best to. Why do you want to respond and legitimize what he is saying? But the larger question is, why is Rahul Gandhi parroting what Trump is saying? ये बता दीजिए ना. उस पे एक थोड़ा मुश्किल है सवाल, लेकिन कोशिश कीजिए, देखिए कुछ हो जाए.
He is asking Narendra Modi to save the sovereignty of our country. Okay. You as a country need to respond to a nation, the president of another nation is telling and questioning your sovereignty, okay, and questioning your bilateral relationship with Pakistan.
So this is Rahul's Bharat Jodo, Bharat Bachao campaign. Dr. Ranganathan.
Good evening, Pranesh. Look, one of the perils of coming last in the debate is that by the time my turn comes, a few panelists have peddled so much fake news that, half of my time goes in rebutting that fake news, but I won't spend half of that time. I'll just point out to my good friend, Professor Mandal, that it is fake news that Modi endorsed Trump and said, "Ab ki baar Trump sarkar." So that is fake news. Please don't peddle that fake news. And as far as Ashwini ji is concerned, when he is talking that, oh, we've kind of bowed down to Trump and America and look at our foreign policy, let me remind him that the butcher of Baghdad, that many Muslims actually called him President George Bush. Do you remember what the late Congress Prime Minister Manmohan Singh called him and said, "Mr. Bush, the entire India loves you," during the time when he was bombing Muslim countries and killing 1 million Muslims. So let's not talk about who kowtowed to America, right? Now let me come to this fact. Now, a couple of days ago, I said Elon versus felon. But the point is, for us to trust Trump or to trust Americans, let me bring out what the old rogue Kissinger once said. He said, to be America's enemy is dangerous, but to be America's friend is downright fatal. And the fact of the matter is, I don't believe that Trump is being foolish, and I don't believe the Americans are foolish or ignorant at all. I mean, these are the people who actually hailed Osama bin Laden when he was fighting the Russians in Afghanistan as a freedom fighter. In fact, there are New York Times articles on, what this glorious fighter is doing for America in the Cold War. So they know exactly how their pawns are positioned in this geopolitical game, or as was written in Kim more than a century ago by Kipling, the great game. The fact of the matter is that while decades earlier we were perturbed by this and, irritated that why, when we keep on telling the world that Pakistan is a terror state, it foments terror, the world doesn't listen to us. Today we are not irritated at all, because we are completely detached and non-aligned for the first time in our modern history. We don't care what the world says or does to Pakistan. We are not going to be fooled by it. Even if the world is or the America is or is not. We are going to attack Pakistan whenever we wish, and we decide that yes, it needs or merits attacking. And this came out clear in our foreign policy when during the Russia-Ukraine war, America pressurized us to not buy Russian oil, and we said, go take a hike. We're going to do whatever we want to do in our interests. And we continue to buy Russian oil. Likewise, we did not wait for America or any other superpower to say, do not bomb Pakistan or their terror hideouts there or their military targets. We did what is in our interests. So Trump or America can think whatever they want to think about America. For a change, we, the new India, is deciding what is in its best interest.
No, but is Rahul Gandhi not part of this new India? I don't know. Where is he operating from? Because, as we speak, he's put out another post. And look, he is now, after his blind faith in Trump, he is now backing the BBC report on Kumbh. He says BBC की रिपोर्ट बताती है कुंभ मेले की भगदड़ में हुई मौतों के आंकड़े छुपाए गए. मिश्रा जी, ये हो क्या रहा है? यूएस से अब यूके आ गए, अब बीबीसी, और कोई मिल नहीं रहा है क्या आपको?
आपको नहीं लगता छुपाएंगे? डू यू हैव एग्जैक्ट काउंट ऑफ?
मुझे पता नहीं है। सरकार ने जो आंकड़े दिए उसके अलावा आप कौन सी एजेंसी ने जांच की है जो मैं भरोसा करूं?
Because Sarkar is hiding the facts. Sarkar has given lot of money, 5 lakhs to a lot of people, and asked their, as per BBC report, Sarkar has asked them to file it like in some other accident, or the reason for deaths are different. But my parents were there at that point of time of.
No, but Mishra ji, let me ask you one simple question. Look, I don't want to bring in your parents. Look, Mishra ji, it's a straightforward question, and tell me if I am wrong. आप मुझे ये बताइए, why is Rahul Gandhi believing BBC and not the UP government? It's simple question. Why?
Because UP government is hiding the fact. Someone has to go and do the inquiry.
On what basis have you come to this conclusion?
Because there are a lot of eyewitnesses were there. There are a lot of people were there who told, and there has been reports of ample of people missing, which body count was never found. So there is always a question of number of deaths and clarity on the number of deaths happened in Kumbh.
So
BJP government has been hiding.
Now that Rahul Gandhi has a certificate from the BBC, the great BBC, he can, say what he wants. Suhail.
You see, I think this is time now to actually understand Mr. Gandhi, means Rahul, not Mahatma. His intellect is not one of our kind. He's an evolved human being. Of him, one would have written that nature stood up and said to all the world, this was an intellectual. I think you'll do him grave injustice by comparing him to people like Sushant Sareen and Abhijit Iyer Mitra and Anand Ranganathan. These are inferior human beings, both in terms of intellect and integrity. Mr. Gandhi comes from a global perspective. We jokers appear on Times Now with Pranesh. He is always addressing Oxford and Cambridge. Anand, Sushant and Abhijit are addressing, Ashoka University and Jindal University and Gargi College. With due respect, they're all fine institutions. My feeling is that Times Now has been running a very, very sullied campaign which decries the enormous intellectual heft that Mr. Gandhi brings to India's political landscape. It is because of your inability to understand his intellectual prowess and the rainbow-colored mind that he has that prevents you from understanding why he appreciates the BBC and not Times Now, why he's more fond of Stephen Sacker rather than Pranesh Roy. The day you understand this, and as Mr. Mishra rightly says, the day you understand this, you will appreciate his lasting contribution to India's intellectual journey, which began when his grandfather assumed the role of India's Prime Minister. Thank you, and may God continue to bless our country.
Now wait till Pawan Kheda or Jairam Ramesh, they pick up this comment, and I don't know what they'll do with it, but something is coming your way, Suhail. Dr. Ranganathan, what would you tell people like Ashwini Mishra, who trust Donald Trump, blind faith in BBC?
No, I think the fact is that people like Ashwini ji, who's a good friend, they have been bitten by this Modi derangement syndrome. Anything that Modi does or says has to be negated, has to be rebutted, has to be outraged on. It doesn't matter if you take the support of either useful idiots, the leftists, or, fake news peddling organizations like the BBC. I mean, I want to ask Ashwini ji. Now, recently the BBC also highlighted the news that India underreported COVID deaths. It mentioned the states that underreported COVID deaths. Now, I want to ask him. He's talking about underreporting of deaths. During the COVID epidemic or pandemic, did the Congress states of Chhattisgarh and in fact at that point of time Maharashtra and also Rajasthan, did they underreport COVID deaths? Because it is the prerogative of the states to report the COVID deaths. So when the BBC is reporting underreporting of COVID deaths, was the Congress also wrong there? वहां पे कांग्रेस रॉन्ग नहीं थी, वहां पे बीजेपी रूल स्टेट्स गलत थे. तो ये ड्यूप्लिसिटी इनकी कब से एक्सपोज हो गई है. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, आई एग्री विद सुहेल दैट हम सब तो तुच्छ इस धरती के प्राणी हैं. जो असली महानुभाव है, महापुरुष है, वो जुपिटर से आए हैं.
एस्केप वेलोसिटी क्या था? इफ आई एम नॉट एस्केप वेलोसिटी. पर मिश्रा जी उसका आप जवाब देना चाहते हैं तो.
आनंद जी ने बातों को जलेबी की तरह बहुत घुमाया है. आई कैन ट्रस्ट टाइम्स नाउ, बट टेल मी आनंद जी एंड यू प्रनेश, how many times you debated about the accountability of government in the Pahalgam attack? How many times you debated that why government did not take in the action after doing Operation Sindoor and 16 people got killed during the Pakistan retaliation in Poonch? How many times you debated the recent 5 people died in local Mumbai train stampede, that people fell off the train? How many times? So question is, when our media is
sir,
sold
we did
off,
it as many times. No, I'll tell you, sir, we did it as many times as people wanted to see. आपने शायद नहीं देखा होगा, बट अवेलेबल है, आप जाके देख सकते हैं. उसके बाद आप इस सवाल का जवाब दे दीजिएगा. विल हैव मेनी मोर डिबेट्स होपफुली अश्विनी जी, क्योंकि देखिए आपकी पार्टी तो आती नहीं है, बॉयकॉट कर दिया, पता नहीं क्यों नहीं आती है. मोहब्बत की राजनीति है, बॉयकॉट कर दिया. अब सुहेल सेठ ने जो एक सवाल पूछा, देखिए सुहेल काफी जेनरस है वो, तो उन्होंने मर्यादा रखी है नेशनल टीवी पे. बट उन्होंने जो बोला उस बात में आपको क्या लग रहा है कि सही बोला, गलत बोला, कि राहुल गांधी का जो इंटेलेक्चुअल हेफ्ट है, कैपेसिटी है, वो नॉर्मल इंसान नहीं समझ पा रहा है?
Suhail sir was pretty much rhetoric. I just want to say that I don't think making a rhetoric comment doesn't going to help the nation. Okay. We need to ask the important question which is pertain to national interest, which I expect media to be asking, but as an opposition it is our duty to ask those questions.
But sir, as an opposition it is not your duty to oppose everything. Suhail कुछ बोल रहे हैं.
No, first is I'm a bit jarred by the structure of that sentence. You can't make a rhetoric comment. You can make it rhetorical, and the comment is embedded. It's like saying operation successful, patient dead. Having said that, my point to Mr. Mishra is no one's argument is that Mr. Gandhi is anti-national or that Mr. Gandhi doesn't trust Indian media. It's no one's contention. But Mr. Mishra, I will only leave you with one thought. That every time you wake up and you whine, people get a bit upset. People are looking for solutions. I think what you've done today is shown the mirror to Mr. Pranesh Roy, who hereafter will carry only news items which depict tragedy and not focus on the progress that this fine nation is making, so that we can continue to wallow in self-pity and one day emerge from the hubris of our vast intellect. No, may God once again continue to bless our country.
I do talk about the tragedy that has hit the Congress party, whether it is electoral or otherwise. But I don't know. The message is lost. Sushant Sareen, you see, we began with Trump, and now we've come to this BBC Kumbh narrative.
Yeah, because we are comparing two intellectual geniuses. I don't know why Mr. Mishra is taking umbrage at Suhail's very eloquent description of Mr. Gandhi's intellectual abilities. I think by dissing Suhail, Mr. Mishra is actually questioning his own leader's intellectual abilities, which we all agree to. So I wonder if Mr. Mishra is wanting to jump ship and join some other party, but that's up to Mr. Mishra. But on the other questions which he raised, look, if he trusts the BBC so much, then he should also know that the other gentleman, Mr. Trump, has actually been saying that BBC is fake news. And in fact, BBC's coverage of the Gaza conflict and the kind of deaths they have been reporting and reportage on certain incidents in which they've accused the Israelis of carrying out certain actions which were never carried out shows that the BBC doesn't have as much credibility as Mr. Mishra or his leader would attribute to them. The same BBC played a very, very dubious role throughout history when it involved interests where British interests or the so-called allies' interests were involved. They are not above fake news peddling, and they also work on certain agendas which are very clear to everybody. But my question to Mr. Mishra is that, look, if Mr. Modi has done terrible by not challenging Trump. In fact, I would expect as an Indian citizen that the leader of opposition does the job which the leader of the government should have done.
Exactly. And that is what I said. He should step up and show that, look, you should have done this, but he's not doing that. Professor Mondal.
You say that the opposition should handle the foreign policy of the government.
No. That's not the point Sushant Sarin is making. He's giving you an example. If you think that, there has been, for lack of a better word, mishandling by the government, then the leader of opposition should say that, look, here I am trying to show that you could have handled this like this. But kahan ho raha hai wo?
The first, no, hang on. I am not here to defend Mr. Rahul Gandhi because that is not my solemn task. What I'm saying is simply this, that Mr. Modi trusted Mr. Trump, and my good friend Anand Ranganathan, I don't know why did he completely gloss over this. He did campaign for Mr. Trump in 2020. What are you talking about? He did endorse Mr. Trump's candidature in 2020.
Okay, quick response, then I bring in Abhijit. Quick one, Dr. Rangan.
No, you give me the proof. Please give me the proof where Mr. Narendra Modi said endorsing Donald Trump, Abki Baar Trump Sarkar. In fact, it was Trump who copied Abki Baar Modi Sarkar and said Abki Baar Trump Sarkar. Please don't peddle fake narratives, Professor Mandal. You are above fake news. Leave that to Ashwini ji.
Okay, Abhijit, you have the last word.
The only thing we need to know is that, Rahul Gandhi, I'm convinced, is going to be the next Prime Minister. I have rarely seen such a great intellect as him. And I just want to quote from, Shakespeare, since Suhail brought up Shakespeare. I think Rahul's speech is, I come here not to praise Modi, but to bury him. With this kind of intellect, I am convinced that Congress is going to come back with a 2/3 majority in 2029.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Let's see how this, the discussion unfolds in the next few hours or days to come. Gentlemen, I thank all of you for joining us on debate number 1.